West, 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 West. This the West, 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 the West Coast. This the West, 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 the West, West. This the West, 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 the West Coast.
Yes, indeed. This is episode 1 of the West Coast Mindset Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Alberto Lucero. And let me tell you a little bit about myself. I'm an up-and-coming sportscaster. I just graduated from college 2 weeks ago, and I'm very excited to show off what I can do in the sports media industry. So then, to go with that, I decided to make this podcast and this platform so I can show you guys my unfiltered opinions when it comes to what's going on in the world of sports. And of course, I'm from the West Coast, so I rep the West Coast all day. It's in my mind. So then I came up with the name of the West Coast Mindset Sports Podcast. And I'm very excited to give you guys the best content that I can, and I hope you guys love what I can give to you. Let's get started. With the Dodgers winning both games in the Tokyo series to open up the regular season. And the Dodgers' Japanese stars came to play. Yoshinobu Yamamoto went 5 innings and allowed 1 run in Game 1. And the rookie Roki Sasaki in his MLB debut went 3 innings and allowed 1 earned run in Game 2. And of course, Shohei Ohtani came through big time in the series with 3 hits, including 2 doubles in Game 1 and a solo homer in Game 2. And yeah, this was great for the MLB. This was a win-win. They got everything they wanted out of it. All the Japanese stars that were playing came through and put up a good product for the fans of Japan, and it was a great thing to watch. The atmosphere was insane. When the Dodgers were over there, they got a lot of revenue when it comes to building a fan base, and that's what they wanted. They wanted to build a fan base in Japan and have a whole country support them, and not even more of a population of people wanting to watch the team. And it was a great success. Of course, winning both games. And yeah, the stars, like I said, they came through, and the place was rocking the whole 2 days, and it was awesome. But yeah, of course, people are going to complain. Obviously, the Dodger fans over here in California were not happy with the games being played at 3:10 in the morning. I agree with that as well, but it is what it is. They're in another part of the world. It is what it is. But it was great. But going forward, you got to feel confident in this team. This team is loaded, and it looks as advertised. And if you think about it, they didn't even have Freddie Freeman or Mookie Betts in the lineup because Mookie Betts was dealing with an illness that caused him to lose 15 pounds. And Freddie Freeman was not able to play because he had a bruise in his ribs. And the Dodgers were still able to win relatively easy in both games. Their offense looks well. And last year, of course, the big issue going into the playoffs was starting pitching. They really didn't have a lot of reliable starting pitching starting pitchers when it comes to getting into the playoffs. But this year, they loaded up big time in that department, adding Sasaki, adding Blake Snell, and getting a bunch of guys back from injury. And the depth there is just crazy. They're looking at doing a 6-man rotation. And that'll only be good. That'll only be a win-win because that'll keep all the pitchers healthy, keeping their innings down. And yeah, you should be confident that they can get to the playoffs this year with a relatively healthy pitching staff and a very talented pitching staff to go along with it. The starting lineup, of course, it's great with the reigning MVP Shohei Ohtani, Mookie Betts, and Freddie Freeman, 3 top 10 players right there in a row, which is insane. They brought back Teoscar Hernandez on a relatively good deal. And they brought back a lot of key role players that were a big part of the championship team last year. And yeah, you should be confident that team's going to score runs and put some big numbers on the board on a day-to-day basis. And the bullpen, they got even more loaded in that department. It was already a relatively good bullpen, but now they had the best 2 relievers on the market, which is insane, with Tanner Scott and Kirby Yates. So there's only more depth in that bullpen. And yeah, they look great. But of course, it's not a guarantee they're going to win the championship this year. Some teams are going to be coming for their throats in the National League. Of course, I would say the biggest threat is the New York Mets because they got Juan Soto on a record-breaking deal to join that lineup already with a great player and Francisco Lindor, the shortstop. And they brought back Pete Alonso, and a lot of people were thinking that Pete Alonso was going to leave and get a big deal. But he came back on a relatively friendly deal. And yeah, that lineup is good. And they have a pretty solid pitching staff. I wouldn't say it's a great pitching staff, but it's solid. Bullpen's pretty solid. but that lineup is going to put up some runs, and they have a pretty good shot to challenge the Dodgers and make some noise in the playoffs. And also another team in that division is the Atlanta Braves. The Atlanta Braves, they've always been a good team. They have a good lineup. They're going to get some players back, of course, with Ronald Acuna, superstar player. He tore his ACL last year. They're going to get him back. So getting him back is obviously a big boost to the offense. Ozzie Albies is one of the best second basemen in the league. He's going to come back, and he's a good switch hitter and versatile player in that lineup. And, of course, Austin Riley is a top 5 third baseman in this league. And he's going to come back and give some good oomph and good power to that lineup. So the Braves expect them to be pretty good. And of course, Spencer Strider, he's coming back in the starting rotation. And that's even going to make their starting rotation even more of a threat. Of course, because they have the reigning Cy Young Award winner in Chris Sale along with Strider. And the starting rotation is pretty good. So I think Braves are a threat. And the Phillies. The Phillies are still a pretty good team. I wouldn't say they're a dominant team. They were the last 2 years. They still have a pretty good starting rotation with Zach Wheeler and Aaron Nola. Of course, they got a superstar in Bryce Harper. They got a pretty good catcher in JT Realmuto. The shortstop, Trey Turner, former Dodger. Really good shortstop. Power speed guy, good player. And Nick Castellanos in right field. And the lineup is still pretty good. So the Phillies are a threat as well. And then, of course, in the Dodgers division, in the NL West, the San Diego Padres, who you can argue were the biggest threat to the Dodgers in the playoffs in that first round. Because if you don't remember, the Dodgers were down that series. They were down 2-1 in the NLDS. And they had to come back and regroup and really fight back to get back in that series because the Padres were a game away from sending Dodgers home last year. So they're good. And, of course, they have a really good starting rotation with Yu Darvish, although there is news that he's going to have to sit out for a while because he has an elbow injury. So that's bad for them. But they have some good pitchers when it comes to Michael King and a lot of other pitchers in that pitching staff. So they'll be pretty good in the pitching department going forward until Darvish comes back. And, of course, the offense, it's really good when it comes to the power and speed with Fernando Tatis Jr., Manny Machado, and then they got the reigning Rookie of the Year and Jackson Merrill, and a lot of other really good players in that lineup. So expect them to try to win the division and beat the Dodgers and send them home because, of course, they're a hated rival. They're the little brother in that division, and they would feel great if they can send the Dodgers home with all the expectations that they have. So the Padres are still a threat. And, of course, there's the Arizona Diamondbacks. I would say after going to the World Series 2 years ago, they had a lot of expectations to get back to the playoffs, and they missed the playoffs. And I was shocked by that. I thought they were a team on the rise, and they were going to really challenge the Dodgers and the Padres in that division. But, yeah, they underachieved. But they still have a pretty solid team. They did lose Christian Walker, the first baseman, to the Houston Astros. So that's a big loss for them, and lost a couple of other key players. But they still have a pretty good team, and I think they'll be better this year and try to make a run in that division. But other than that, the Dodgers are by far the most talented team in baseball. So they should be able to get back to the Fall Classic and try to win another championship and be the first team in 25 years to go back-to-back and win the back-to-back championships. So, yeah, the Dodgers looking good. And Dodger fans, be confident. They're going to have a great season, and it's going to be fun to see. Now let's go to the NBA with the Lakers. And what should have been the win that Saturday night, but they got blown out by the Bulls 146-115 in a shocker, and with LeBron James and Rui Hachimura coming back from injury in this game. And yeah, both LeBron and Rui looked pretty rusty, and it was shocking that they lost that bad, 146 points, like to a Bulls team without Lonzo Ball and without a lot of key players. Kobe White went off, and he just was getting to the rim like crazy, and he turned into Kobe Bryant, which is funny. It's like against the Lakers, so that's not a good sign. But Laker fans, don't panic. You know, they're starting to get back and get the nucleus back together, and yeah, they should be confident about the Lakers going forward. Luka Doncic still played pretty well. He scored 34 points and hit a lot of three-pointers, and he looked good. LeBron, like I said, was rusty. He has to get his legs back under him. And Rui Hachimura has to get his legs back under him as well. But, of course, the defense was the big problem there. They should be better going forward with that. Dorian Finney-Smith had a bad game, and you should expect the Lakers to be better on that end going into the playoffs. But yeah, offensively, you got to be excited about them. Luka Doncic is playing at his best level right now. He looks healthy. He looks like he's finally in shape. Austin Reeves is balling. He looks confident. He's playmaking and scoring at a high level. And LeBron obviously is going to be LeBron. And Hachimura is going to be back in the lineup and give him some physicality and hit corner threes and spread the offense out. And it's going to be a really good thing to watch going forward. But of course, there's a threat in the way with the Oklahoma City Thunder and the Denver Nuggets in the way. Of course, Oklahoma City is the number 1 seed for a reason. They got the guy who looks like it's going to be the MVP, and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, and they have the number 1 defense in the league when it comes to every category: steals, opponent field goal percentage, points allowed, everything. They're an elite defensive team. And of course, there's the Denver Nuggets with the monster who owns the Lakers over the last couple of years, and of course, and the Joker, Nikola Jokic. He's an absolute beast. He's averaging a triple double, and he just dominates teams on that basis. And Jamal Murray, although he gets out to slow starts every year, but when it gets closer to the playoffs, he turns into an all-star player. And against the Lakers, he turns into Michael Jordan and just hits crazy clutch shots against the Lakers and just breaks their hearts. And you have to look out for him, of course. But at the same time, I don't think the Nuggets are as strong as they were in the past. They lost a lot of depth with Bruce Brown being let go. They lost a good veteran, Jeff Green, to lead that locker room in the second unit as well. They lost Contavious Caldwell-Pope to Orlando. He was a good 3-and-D player. Christian Brown has been good. He's really improved, but they took him off the bench, and now he's in the starting lineup. So the depth overall in that for the team is not that great. Michael Porter Jr. is a good shooter, but he's not a great defender. So the defense is a lot weaker. They did get Russell Westbrook. He's having a good year, but you should know in the past with Russell Westbrook, he has those issues in the playoffs where he gets distracted by the crowd. He tries to play he tries to do too much and plays too hard. Takes a lot of jump shots and misses a lot of threes instead of being aggressive and into the basket. And he commits silly fouls, and he just gets distracted, and he becomes a liability in the playoffs. So you can't rely on that. So I think the Nuggets are still a threat, but I think this has to be the year the Lakers beat them in the playoffs if they meet in the first or second round. So you have to be mindful of that, but the Lakers should be able to win that series. And other than that, there's really no other team in the Western Conference that really scares me. Houston, although they're playing pretty well, they've won 7 straight, and they're the second seed in the Western Conference as we speak. But they're a young team, and the playoffs are a different animal. You can have a good regular season as a young team, but once you hit the intensity of the playoffs and the game slows down, a lot of those teams start to get tight. And I just don't know if Houston's ready because, yeah, they do have some veterans in that team with Fred VanVleet and Dylan Brooks. But other than that, the other great players are really young. Jalen Green is going to enter his first playoffs. Amen Thompson is going to enter his first playoffs. And Alperen Sengun, their all-star this year, is entering his first playoffs. So I just don't know if they have the experience, and I don't know if they're going to be able to come through in the big moments in a tight series when the game slows down. The Memphis Grizzlies, I don't know about them either because John Morant, he has superstar talent. We know he has that ability to be a potential face of the league. But this year, I don't know what it is. He can't stay healthy. He's not putting up the numbers he usually put up in the past. Jaren Jackson's having a great year. He was their all-star for them. But I think that for them to be great, John Morant has to be the guy to lead that team. And so far from what we've seen, he hasn't been that guy. So I don't think they're ready. And yeah, you see other teams are not that great when it comes to challenging the Lakers. So the Lakers, they have a good shot, but the two threats in the road to the finals have to be the Nuggets and the Thunder. So Laker fans, get ready. It's almost playoff time. And let's close it out with some March Madness talk. and Duke. Cooper Flagg, of course, got hurt in the ACC tournament against Georgia Tech. He got a crazy sprained ankle, and there was fear that he was not going to play in March Madness. But he was able to come back and have a pretty good performance against Mount St. Mary's, and Duke went on to win 93-49 in a blowout. And then earlier today, 89-66. And Flagg had a pretty good game. He went 6 for 12, went 1 for 3 from 3, 7 rebounds, and 4 assists for 14 points. But he was able to move around pretty good, and he looked relatively healthy. And yeah, Duke looks like they have a chance to really make a run in this tournament and win it all. Like I said, they're blowing teams out, and they look like they're in full control. But aside from that, and Cooper Flagg, it's good that he was able to come back, and he looks healthy, and he's playing pretty well and helping this team win. And he's for sure the slam dunk number 1 pick in this NBA draft. And aside from that, going into the NBA, I think this is going to be great for the league because the league needs a great white American superstar. Chet Holmgren, yes, he was a good prospect coming out, and he's been pretty good in the NBA, but he's the number 3 option on the Thunder, and I just don't know if he's really going to become the superstar that people expect him to be. And also, he's had injury issues. But Flagg, I think Flagg has the game to be the guy on the team. Although if he goes to the Spurs, of course, with Wemby and De'Aaron Fox, he might end up being number 3. So we'll see if he goes there. But if he goes to another team, becomes a number 1, I think he can be really good and be a face of the franchise and be a face of the league. And yeah, like I said, the NBA needs a white American superstar. We really haven't had one since Kevin Love early in Minnesota, and even then, like he went to Cleveland and became a 3rd option. Now he's older and he's not really a really good player when it comes to being a star. So I just don't know if he had anybody since Larry Bird or Chris Mullin, really. So yeah, really just Larry Bird. Larry Bird was the face of the league. So I think this is huge for the NBA, and Cooper Flagg is that guy. And Duke, as a whole, as a team, they look good. They have a couple of pretty good players that should go in the first round as well on that team. And Flagg is just hanging in there, and he looks like the number 1 pick for a reason. And yeah, the NBA, whoever gets this guy is going to be happy with the results. He has everything when it comes to being a stretch 4, the athleticism, the shot, he can move well for being 6'9", 6'10". And yeah, he looks like he's going to be a special player. And the league is in great hands with this young man. And yeah, it's going to be a great thing to watch. I'm excited to watch him when he gets to the next level. And I want to thank you guys so much for listening to the first episode of the West Coast Mindset Sports Podcast. And yeah, do me a favor and subscribe, rate, and review, and tell everybody else about the podcast and spread the word. It'd be great. This is my first test run, and I think it went pretty well. But I'm only gonna get better and better with the more episodes I do, and it's gonna be great. And the content's gonna be outstanding, guys. So I'm excited to give you the best content that I can, and I think the podcast is gonna be really good, and it's a lot of fun. I had a great time talking about this, and yeah, I look forward to giving you guys the best content I can every single week. And yeah, I want to thank you guys so much for listening, and I'll see you next week. Oh yeah, and also follow me on social media. There's a couple. I made a couple of new social media sites, so you can see all the content there. I'm on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. So follow those. And yeah, I look forward to see you guys next week.
This the West, West, this the West, the West Coast. This the West, the West, this the West, the West.